let's head up to the East Walker River. We're going to get over there on the Eastern Sierra side here up in Central California on the east side, East Walker River. And I am with our expert in that area, and it's Whitney Inman. She is with the Angler's Edge, and she is the one that we look to or turn to for information and a report in that area. How you doing, Whitney?
Great, Rick. How are you?
Doing great. Having a great time here. It's dog days of summer, but kind of interesting, a little different than we kind of expect for the beginning of August or middle of August here. Kind of some strange weather. It's not just baking out there. You guys are getting some interesting weather up there. A little dynamic, huh?
Very dynamic. Pretty typical summer pattern for the Eastern Sierras and Northern Nevada. We see, might have a bluebird morning, but humidity comes up, and I think this morning I was seeing about 40% humidity. We got a little rain in Carson Valley this last night. And of course it's hot and muggy, which is awful for us desert dwellers. We were all just sweating. But I'm watching a cell build to the south down towards Topaz right now. Looked like they were going to get a little bit of rain down that direction. So I expect that Versace should probably see some rain as well. It looked like it was going to be moving from Bridgeport, out east towards Hawthorne. And typically that will kind of travel that corridor over the Versace section of the East Walker and out towards the Elbow.
And what is this doing then for flows? The CFS on the East Walker, has it had any impact at all? Or do you anticipate any impact, or what are you seeing?
What I'll see at Versace is what water comes out of Sweetwater Creek, and we get what's called the lahar, or thunderstorm runoff that'll come down and kind of blow the creek out, which then translates downstream into the Versace section all the way down to the Elbow. Right now, the flows were, when I checked this morning, coming out of Bridgeport Reservoir through the California side, were about 102, 108 CFS. The dynamic change with that is when Nevada calls for water and the ranchers need water downstream. That's where that control comes from, is through Walker River Irrigation District, who manages the flows from both Topaz by way of the West Walker, and then also, again, the East Walker by way of Bridgeport Reservoir.
Now, when you talk about that flow, I think you said 102 CFS. So where would that sit in the optimal flow for what you're looking at and fishing that river?
I like fishing it, between 80 and 100 is really, really like, fish have enough flow to spread out. It gets a little more oxygenated, which is great. It takes a little more time for that water temperature to warm up through the course of the day. So even still right now, as hot as it's been, we had triple digits last week here. So I was starting my trips at 6 a.m. I'm up at 3:30 and I'm down on the river by 6 getting started, and we're off by 10, 11 o'clock. And I'm taking my time to monitor those temperatures and watch them climb. And by the time they hit about 68, we're out.
Okay, yeah, so let's talk about that. So just if you could back up on the temperature side of things. So flows actually sound like they're in a pretty nice place right now, but yep. Temperatures becoming an issue?
Absolutely. So again, we're starting super early, and I'm off the water with my people as other people are starting their day. And
so what is optimal in temperature, and then where do you stop?
I stop at 68 degrees. Typically between 58 and 68 is, you're still in the very safe zone. They're still very active, and we'll fish it all through the winter, even when the water temperatures are, 33, 34. You just have to really bounce the flies off their nose. That's a good time to start check nymphing and really, breaking down your seams and working specific pockets. Anyways, right now, fish are really active. We get about 8 o'clock in the morning, we get a good PMD hatch coming off. Our caddis is pretty much done. You might see the odd one or two flit around, but really we're seeing a lot of mayflies, especially with the humidity coming up with these thunderstorms. And
so patterns with PMD or mayfly patterns, but a lot less caddis at this point. Yep. So now you fish pretty much all day, kind of looking at that hatch, and then and dry, or are you also subsurface on certain times of day? How do you kind of strategically look at it?
So where I'm starting in the morning is I'm actually starting with doing a little bit of a dead drift with a streamer under an indicator, unless someone can really pitch throw a streamer rig well and kind of do either a dip and strip or really start working at a 45-degree angle and strip it back and retrieve to themselves. But we have a lot of bait fish in the river right now, and I'm watching some of the bigger browns first thing in the morning, just crushing bait balls. And so that's where I start. And then as it gets a little more prolific in the hatch later into the morning, I'll switch over to a dry dropper. I'm using, when it's overcast, I'm using a little bit darker colored silhouette hopper, and then I'll put probably between 2 to 2.5 feet of tippet underneath it, and I'll throw a small hare's ear underneath it. And that seems to be picking them up just fine, whether they're eating the dry or they're eating the nymph. They're traveling in that column about the depth that I want them to be. And then again, you've got your hopper there. It works as a great indicator if that nymph gets stopped and disappears. So,
yeah. So when you were talking a little bit there, so you're talking cloud cover then is kind of dictates a little bit of what you're doing. So you kind of change up as things may be clouded over, and then it gets sunny again, you kind of change back.
A really basic rule of thumb can be darker flies on darker days and lighter flies on lighter days, purely because you want that little darker body silhouette to stand out against that darker cloud cover. There's a little less reflection from the sun. So I'll mix it up, and I'll have a couple of rods rigged with one with a darker hopper setup and one with a lighter hopper setup, and we'll throw which one seems to be, we'll start with whatever I kind of say, look, it's pretty bluebird right now. Maybe let's start with these lighter ones, because we still, again, the odd caddis popping off here and there in a hopper about that same size will work perfectly in about a gray color. And then I'll switch over later in the day if clouds build and it gets a little overcast to more of a Terra Narcissus color.
Okay. Now, when I know that you were talking a little bit there about just backing up on temperature, are you anticipating any special regulations? Is it sort of voluntary, hoot owl, that kind of thing in terms of when and how to handle fish and so on? Is there any regulations that you know of or are anticipating, kind of now towards the end of the summer?
Sure. I typically don't. Most of the time it's voluntary. So again, that's why if people aren't going to back out of a trip or reschedule for a bit later in the season when it'll be cooler, that's why we'll go first thing in the morning and be off the water. Is again, other people that, maybe the heat doesn't bother them or just they don't know. And it's not my goal to jump out in their face and scream at them and say, what are you doing? You should not be starting. We're just finishing. Get out of here. It's kind of just personal education, and whether people take the time to learn about water conditions and when it's safe to be fishing and what's going to hurt the fish and what isn't. I feel like that's just a personal thing, and some people care, some people don't. And
I would imagine even with the water temperatures in a kind of a safe zone, but sort of in that, close, that even just handling fish, meaning, not playing them very long and, quickly getting them back in the water, that kind of thing, I'm assuming is also an element of this.
Absolutely. So I'm still using a 5-weight rod. I probably won't use anything lighter than 4X tippet, just so I can really keep a stronger tippet on there to really get a fish in quickly and not risk going, well, sure, it might make more sense to fish a more delicate tippet, but knowing how quickly those fish need to get to hand and get back in the water, I'd rather get them in and get them back safe than, play them and go, oh, it's a big fish. Let's, take our time getting it in, and knowing I can feel the difference on my feet that the water temperatures aren't chilly.
Okay, well, that's really good advice and kind of a good practical element there to look at what your tippet is so that you can kind of a little bit more muscle in as opposed to playing a fish, especially when those water temperatures are high at this. And I guess we're in that spot now until we get into the fall for the rest of the summer. Whitney, how can people get a hold of you if they want to take a trip up there?
Well, you can reach me through my cell phone, which is 775-790-2624. You can reach out to me via email, which is nvflygirl, nvflygirl @gmail.com. You can also reach out to the Angler's Edge, speak to Liz, and Liz can connect you straight to me too, which is 775-781-7112.
That's great. All right. I appreciate it. That was some really good advice. And Good checking in with you, Whitney. We'll catch up with you again maybe in a week or two to see, if anything's changed and where we're at. But great report there on the East Walker River. That was Whitney Inman. She's with the Angler's Edge. She is our connection up on the East Walker River and in that area. If you want to get in touch with her, maybe set up a trip. She can put you on to some fish. I've had the pleasure of going out there with Whitney. She knows her stuff. She knows the area, and just they want to have a really fun time on the water with somebody who's professional and knows what to do there out there. Just let us know. You can get in touch with her. She gave you that information. I'll also put her information in the post, or you can just contact us here and we'll reach out and put you in touch. And we'll see you right here next time on The Back End.